Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this breakout session of the second MAP Next Gen CEO Web Conference 2021. I am Dr. Karen REMO, the CEO and co founder of New Perspective Media Group, your moderator for this first session of track number one, The Good Money. Please settle down comfortably. We will now begin our program. Couple of house rules. Some reminders before we proceed. As participants for this breakout session, you are automatically muted and your camera and video is also switched off. Audience in the Echo Hub platform will remain muted. However, if you're encouraged to submit your questions through the chat box. Due to time limitations, we may not be able to have all your questions answered live. Lastly, for our audience, you will only be able to see the speaker and moderator and will not be able to view other participants. In line with the MAP policy, we will dispense with a lengthy introduction of our speaker. Our speaker for this breakout session will share with us his views on how next-gen CEOs in his industry should learn their businesses to be innovatively profitable, socially responsible, and environmentally respectful. I'd like to remind our speaker that you are given 20 minutes for your presentation. My pleasure to now present our speaker for this breakout session on the good money. Let us all welcome the president of Coins.Ph, Mr. NAUMAN MUSTAFA.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm NAUMAN MUSTAFA, the CEO and the president of Coins.Ph. I'm pleased and honored to be amongst you discussing what the next generation CEO should be, and also would like to start with the journey by going over what Coins.Ph is, what Coins.Ph does, and then we can have more discussions around it. Thank you. All right, so let's just start the journey of who are we? What is Coins.Ph? Coins.Ph is the Southeast Asia blockchain-backed e-wallet service provider that enables financial inclusion for those without the bank account. Now, as we go in the next slides, we will discuss about the terms such as what is blockchain, what is e-wallet service provider, what does financial inclusion means, and what does it mean to helping those who do not have a bank account? First of all, let's discuss our mission. For Coins.Ph, the mission from the start has been to increase the financial inclusion across the Southeast Asia, as millions of people would still remain largely unbanked. To our products, Coins.Ph is a blockchain-based mobile application. It allows people to deposit the funds, withdraw the funds, use the money on their mobile to pay bills, buy load, buy game credits, and to do every single function that they can if they want to on the financial products. Let's discuss when we say the word fintech versus the banks. What is actually when people nowadays use the word fintech, and how is that compared to with a conventional bank? It's important to understand that Philippines, with having 7,000 islands, has more than 100 million population living in different areas in Philippines, different provinces, different towns. Not everyone, unfortunately, gets access to the bank, and banks would be concentrated mainly towards the place which would be largely populated. That is the key aspect where a fintech technology comes into place, and it solves the two important problems here. The first being the accessibility. As we know, in Philippines, around 25% people have a bank account. However, around 90% people, or even more than that, would have a phone, a Viber, a Facebook, and other social media platforms. That means people do have access to technology. Unfortunately, they do not have access to the financial technology. That is where the fintech helps. Fintech allows people to get access to the financial products without being required to go to the bank and cross that bridge. The next, let's talk about availability. As we discussed, the banks usually are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and in most of the cases are Monday to Saturday. In some cases, they might also open beyond Sunday. However, this accessibility sometimes limits people who might be working during their hours or who might be living in place that the bank hours are very limited. That's where the fintech technology comes into play. Fintech allows anyone with a mobile phone and an internet connection to have the same functions as a bank would do, and they could actually get access to pretty much all the products that they could get from the bank, and that with all comfort of their home. Secondly, the fintechs are open 24/7. That means you can get any financial product and the access 24/7. Last but not the least, and this is the most important part of the journey, that fintech and the conventional banks actually have a collaborative work here. It's important to understand that a country's financial strength always depends on its banking network. And what fintech does, it actually increases the accessibility of those products to everyone in the country. It's important to understand that we should not think of fintech and the banks to be against each other, but they actually have a strong collaboration with each other. It allows a lot of people who can get access to a lot of products. Let's discuss about financial inclusion in Philippines. What is financial inclusion? Whenever we hear about people saying financial inclusion, what does that actually mean? Financial inclusion, and this is the definition coming from the Central Bank of Philippines, is that it's a state in which everyone has equal and affordable access to financial products, such as banking, saving, sending, and receiving payments. That is the vision of the governor of central bank. They want to make sure that there is a state of time in Philippines where everyone has access to equal and affordable. It's important to make sure it's equal and affordable access to financial products. How does Coins.Ph help in achieving that vision of the central bank? As I said before, around 28% of all Filipinos has access to the bank account. However, this shows that around 51.2 million Filipino adults remain unbanked. In the Philippines, more people have access to phones and banks versus the people who have access to the bank accounts. 52% of adult population has access to a smartphone, which means they actually can download apps and use them. As of 2021, this year, we are proud to say that we have over 16 million registered users. That is 16% of the country. We enable our users to access financial services anywhere and anytime, 24/7. And as long as they have a strong internet connection or a computer, they can use our product. One of the important part that people think about and talk about is that if there are so many fintech applications, are there some regulations or regulatory requirements that the funds of the customers are protected? And not only that, is there a way that the bad players are being filtered? And I would say, yes, that's the way. Because as far as fintech in Philippines is concerned, they have to follow the regulations provided by the two key important regulators. The first being the Banco Central ng Filipinas, which is the Central Bank of Philippines, and the second one being the Anti-Money Laundering Council, AMLC Philippines. For Coins.Ph, we are registered with both of these regulators. We provide them all the reports that they request from time to time, and we follow the rules and regulations and requirements that are given to us by both of these organizations. There is a smooth communication between Coins.Ph and the central bank and the AMLC that allows the central bank to be uh, to have a much better comfort that the funds of the people are secured and the system and the security put in place will make sure that there will be a seamless transactions. Now let's talk about the future of money. It is important to be aware what does the money mean in future. There was a time when we were doing barter trade and sooner we had the currencies being printed. The next step was when we had the credit cards, the debit cards. And then finally, we are talking now about the future of money. The entire monetary transaction is now in the mobile phone. There are two important terms for us to understand: EMI, which is electronic money issuer, versus VASP, which is virtual assets service provider. EMI is a license issued by the central bank to any of the EMI players in the country. They are licensed to issue electronic money, which are actually backed 1:1 by law uh, in the bank account. Versus VASP, which is Virtual Asset Service Provider, is also another license issued by the central bank to those companies who would like to operate under the virtual assets, or quite commonly known as cryptocurrency form. Let's discuss some of the key players in the industry. In Philippines, the virtual currency at the moment is supported by three key players. That's Gcash, Paymaya, and Coins.Ph. While as the virtual assets are supported by two key players, Coins.Ph and PDAX. What is virtual asset? That is going to be a very important question that people would think and ask each other. What is it that people say is virtual asset, or quite commonly known as cryptocurrencies? The reason why I'm saying virtual asset is because that's the term that we are using given to us by the central bank. Virtual asset is a new form of digital assets that are used cryptographically to secure transaction on the blockchain. Again, we heard a new word called blockchain, and let's go deep to understand what is blockchain. Before we understand blockchain, we need to think about a simple term called ledger. And we all know what ledgers are. Ledger is a place where we record the movement of money, the debits, the credits, the ins and the outs. That's exactly what ledger means. Now, let's take a look at two environment. The first environment being a centralized ledger. What is a centralized ledger? A centralized ledger is, for example, a bank where there is a central institution who is responsible to record all ins and outs of the transactions of all the customers. Whenever you go to the bank to deposit the money, the bank would record that as a deposit in your account. When you would go to the bank to withdraw the money, they would record that as a withdrawal of the account. When you would transfer funds from your account to your friend's account, the bank is the one who maintains the records that it will be debiting one's account and crediting the other person's account. In this scenario, you actually trust that single entity to keep your records of your transactions safe. Of course, to do that, the bank would charge a fees. Now, the question comes, is it possible to have an environment where one does not have to rely on a single source of entity in between, but they actually start the trust factor among each other? And that environment is called the decentralized ledger. What's a decentralized ledger? In the decentralized ledger basically does is that every single person in that environment is responsible to record transactions. Every time money is entered, every time money leaves, every time money is transferred, every single ledger in that node is being updated all the time. What that does actually is that it allows people to have a transparent transaction record. Secondly, if one person tries to change a record, it will not impact the blockchain transactions because that person has to change every single record. Each computer on the network is responsible for recording all transactions. In this scenario, you don't rely on a single source, but you actually rely on a network of trust with multiple entities to keep your transactions safe. What is blockchain now? So blockchain is an environment, a shared environment where everyone trusts and everyone agrees on a form of a shared ledger. Let's talk about Bitcoin. That's a very common topic that people typically ask, what is Bitcoin? The Bitcoin is the first use case of a blockchain technology. It's the oldest cryptocurrency currency, and is the largest by market capitalization of $1.2 trillion. What's the benefit of being a part of a cryptocurrency market? Why would Bitcoin be different from any other financial transactions that we do today? First of all, let's talk about the scarcity. There is only 21 million Bitcoin that could be mined. Today, there are 18.8 million Bitcoins already mined. This means that Bitcoin is deflationary. The value of Bitcoin going is going to be supportive of that. It will always go up because it is limited in supply. Unlike fiat currency, Bitcoin cannot be printed. Beyond 21 million Bitcoins, we cannot print any other Bitcoin. Second, let's talk about the feature of speed. When you send money by a telegraphic transfer or through a remittance agent, it typically takes 3 to 5 business days to arrive from one part of the world to the other. However, on an average, a Bitcoin takes 10 minutes for a Bitcoin transaction to be traveling from one part of the world to the other. Last but not the least, the cost effectiveness. Generally speaking, we've heard that it costs between 5 to 9% of the transaction cost to send money using a remittance agent. However, the average cost of Bitcoin transaction is between $3 to $4 to send across the globe. Lastly, I would like to discuss the role of the next-gen CEO. The next-gen CEO, who is the next-gen CEO? They basically come with three core responsibilities, three core features. The first one, that they should be innovatively profitable. Everyone asks, why is it important for a CEO and an organization to think about having a culture of innovation? Why is it important that the profit is being driven through innovation? The reasons why it's actually important is because innovation matters. It increases employee retention. When employees find that the work is now being done automatically and there are better tools to do the job, it increases their motivation and increases their retention. Secondly, it improves your existing line of products. Simple example would be looking at the smartphones and the electric cars. In that industry, there is constant innovation, and because of that, you see always that the existing products improve. Thirdly, it improves the operational management. It allows the management to look into the fact that the scope of the work is going to be innovative. And last but not the least, a very important factor, it keeps the company in the game. We have all seen historically that there are companies who did not keep up with the innovation, and unfortunately, they had to go back. But those companies who are constantly innovating their products and services are still in the game. Let's talk about social responsibility. Why is it important that a CEO should be an agent for being a corporate social responsible? The first one, they take responsibility to challenge the status quo. It is important for a CEO to have an approach that they will be responsible to change and challenge the way we do things today. That allows innovation and that also allows the new talent to be proud of. Secondly, they keenly understand the connection between the company's brand, core capabilities, and social mission. For Coins, wherever we launch a new product, a new feature, it's always important for us to keep in mind, will a product or a feature increase the financial inclusion? And furthermore, it will also improve financial empowerment. And last but not the least, that they empower employees and business partners to amplify their company's social impact. They will make sure that the responsibility of being socially responsible is not only dependent on them, but it's being disintegrated to the employees and their business partners. That has a bigger social impact. Last but not the least, let's discuss about what does it mean that the next-gen CEO should be environmentally respectful. Why environment matters? And one of the important factors that it matters is because when you work in a work environment, It's important that the focus of CEO should always be to listen to the employees and to increase the employees' engagement. It is a proven fact that the way the companies will make profit tomorrow is if the focus will be on the employee engagement. If the engagement of the employee increases, their motivation increases. When the motivation increases, their productivity increases. That impacts a better customer services. That impacts the fact that customers will have a longer life cycle on your product. And finally, it will impact on your better balance sheet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Numan, for that very insightful and wonderful presentation. It's such a crash course for us.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Yes.
Karen. It was a great opportunity to be a part of this audience.
Great, great. So we will now proceed with the Q&A. So let me start with my few questions. Well, congratulations on the 16 million users in the Philippines. That's such a fantastic job. What was the number last year?
Last year, the number that we were prevailing was around 10 million customers. And
Oh,
when,
okay.
yeah, this is the reason why we saw a good increase in the number of customers was mainly contributed due to pandemic. We have seen the vision of central bank that they would like to push and promote that the Philippine financial ecosystem moves towards a cashless environment. As we now see that due to pandemic, we want to go from a touchless to a touchless technology, from a cash economy. And this was one of the reasons that we constantly promoted the fact that why it is a benefit to be a part of Coins.Ph as an e-wallet service provider. You can open up an e-wallet account by the comfort of your home. You can do a selfie and you can upload your IDs to be verified.
Surely. What kind of growth are you looking at then? So because of the pandemic, it jumped from 10 to 16. So you got a 60% increase. But going forward, what kind of growth are you looking at year in year?
For us, the growth actually now focuses not only on financial inclusion. We have existing players in the market, such as PayMaya and Gcash, and they have done a fantastic job of increasing the education level of all the Filipinos, most of the Filipinos, and they are already choosing which wallet that they want to be a part of. Coins.Ph vision now is going to be not only to focus on financial inclusion, but also to increase the financial empowerment. It's important to say that the life of the people should be changing. And for us, it's about improving the existing life of the people.
Do you have any numbers that you're
Uh,
targeting?
I would say that as far as the numbers are concerned, I think sky is the limit, if that makes sense. But for us, it's about the fact that more and more people should be a part of the fintech technology.
Okay, I mean, having said that, we're encouraging a lot of people to be part of this industry now, not only as users, but also players, because competition definitely addresses the needs of consumers. Now, 7 out of 10, according to your presentation in the Philippines, are unbanked. Okay, so having said that, you are definitely serving the underserved or unserved market. So you're taking away, or the fintech industry is still taking away market share from the banks and legacy financial institutions. So are you seeing like currently, 3%, 30% are banked? Do you think it's going to get lower because they will now go to fintech service providers?
I I don't think so, and this is a very key important part to understand that fintech and the conventional banks actually have a very strong collaboration. It is in the rules of the central bank that for us as an e-wallet service provider, we have to have a close connection with the bank to keep all of our reserve funds. So in my opinion, what's going to happen in future that more and more specialized products will be stayed with the banks, but at least allowing the access to those who cannot reach to the bank physically, or they might not be able to meet the requirements such as minimum account balance. Those who definitely cannot have a bank account today, they can at least experience how is it to be a part of a financial environment.
Okay, right. I mean, definitely, I mean, in many countries like India, for example, they have a very powerful ecosystem, UPI. In the Philippines, one of the sources of growth is the underbanked or unserved market, as you mentioned. But how is our digital infrastructure in the Philippines?
To me, I would say that I'm very proud to say that Philippines central bank is innovatively the most innovative central bank in Southeast Asia. By Coins.Ph being the first company to be issued both licenses for virtual assets as well as electronic money issuer, it means that the central bank is inviting more and more technology to be a part of Philippines so that more and more people can be unbanked. As far as infrastructure is concerned, you have already seen the rollout of the Philippine QR based system. If you go today to any shops, and even I've seen in some of the jeepneys where they have a QR based system. So you don't actually receive physical cash, you use your phone to make the payment. This is only possible by the support of the central bank. As far as infrastructure is concerned, one thing that I must say proudly that Philippines is at the right time, at the right place, doing the right job.
Okay, kudos to the central bank. So, Numan, a question from the audience here. In the Philippines, what is the popular digital asset used?
I can easily say that it has to be probably Bitcoin, assuming because it is one
Mm.
of the most highest priced coin. At the moment, it is, I believe, priced at $67,000. And the next in line will probably be Ethereum, and then there will be others to follow.
Oh, I mean, great. Speaking of Bitcoin, I remember the days when Bitcoin is an obsession of the anarchists. And now it is actually a 1 trillion asset class that a lot of fund managers insist they belong in a balanced portfolio. How is the acceptance of virtual currencies or VCs or Bitcoin specifically by fund managers in the country?
Uh, I would say that the acceptability and the fact that people have started uh, looking at as one of a very strong asset class has gone up. As far as fund managers internationally is concerned, we have already seen that most of the big top 500 S&P companies have started accepting Bitcoins as a part of their balance sheet. And even the SEC in US have now promoted that it's okay to have companies in US have cryptocurrency as a part of their balance sheet. I think it will take a little bit time, but I believe that at some point of time, maybe in Philippines, the corporations and fund managers will get more comfort around this. The
When do
important
you
part
think
is,
with that?
sorry, I must complete one thing. The most important part is that when people do deal with cryptocurrency, they have to make sure that they study the factors. They don't jump onto it just by hearing what their friends has to say. They should study and they should ask questions about it. And more importantly, they deal with a regulated organization. When do I think that's going to happen? That you asked, Dr. Karen. I think the speed in which the Philippines innovation in the financial sector is happening, I feel maybe in the next 10 years, we will find some interesting blockchain based culture coming in Philippines.
Okay, it's lots of opportunities over that 1 decade period then. Yes. Um, so Numan, another question from the audience. Do you see Filipinos use digital assets in retail in the next 3 years?
I actually see that today. I don't want to wait for next 3 years to happen. We have customers who, as the freelance workers, who overseas Filipino workers in West, who are people who receive their payroll. Most of these people on our ecosystem, on Coins.Ph ecosystem, actually receive their money using cryptocurrencies. And the reason is very simple. You do the job, you get the money in 10 minutes. It's whatever time of the day. If you want to receive money to your family, you can send money in 10 minutes. This is the power of the blockchain technology.
Great, great. One of the many revolutions that kind of less talked about compared to Bitcoin is the creation of government digital currencies, which will allow people to deposit funds directly with the central bank bypassing conventional lenders. I know it's a long shot. What's your take on this?
Okay. So what you're referring to is called CBDCs, like central bank backed digital currencies. And there
Mm,
is already a work happening in some of our neighbors, actually. It's important to understand that CBDCs are not different than actual fiat currencies. It is still the same as fiat currencies. And there is still a lot of work to be done around it. We have to understand how will it actually benefit. It will benefit in the case where you have to reach out to more and more people. Again, it's about increasing the financial inclusion. And what it does is that it actually opens up the ecosystem of the digital technology as far as Philippines pesos is concerned. What happens today is that there are, let's say, two electronic money issuer, and they both issue their own EMIs. At the moment, you cannot transfer your EMI from one wallet provider to the other. You actually have to withdraw the funds in pesos and have to deposit to their account. But I believe when CBDCs comes into play, it might have a common point of view that you can easily send money from one wallet to the other. But it's too early to say that.
but it is, has a potential to actually becoming a reality.
I think we should wait for some governments to do that and see how the impact happens. I would be a little bit skeptical to see what's the actual impact of it.
Mm. What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
Okay. As far as the next 5 years for Coins.Ph is concerned, as I said to you, that our vision is now moving beyond financial inclusion. The fact that now millions and millions of Filipinos are a part of some wallet system, whether it's going to be PayMaya, Gcash, Coins.Ph, and there are so many other wallet service providers out there, which means that inclusion is something that's already out there. People understand, and more people are trying to be part of it because they realize the benefit of it. As we focus on financial empowerment, for us, it's about opening up gateways for Filipinos to have different opportunities to earn money from. We are looking into the areas of NFT ecosystem, non-fungible tokens, and that would be probably one of the space to look at. There would be places where we could bring out maybe like learn to earn, where you would actually go on the module, learn, and you might earn from it. So there are many. It's like a metaverse. It is a never-ending world actually for us.
Okay, so when you mean, what do you mean by financial inclusion in this case? So currently I have 16 million users. So are you trying to like cross-sell to them, to these existing users, a bigger or a wider range of products?
For us, it is not about cross-selling. It's about the fact that if they need the product, that product is a part of Coins.Ph at the moment. As more and more options and products are offered, whether it's going beyond the existing deposits, withdrawals, load, and payment bills. Now we want to open up door towards insurance products. We want to open up door towards credit products. We want to open up door uh, towards transportation product. So that is going to be the cross-selling part of it.
Okay, so deepening the breadth of the offerings to the current users. Question from the audience. What is your advice for Filipinos on how to protect themselves if they want to invest in virtual assets?
I would always say one thing about being a part of virtual assets. All right, it looks very lucrative, obviously, because we all see the prices of it. We hear a lot
Mm,
about it from our friends and family, but it's important that we actually learn about it. We actually are educated about it. We know the risks of volatility. We know how the actual basic blockchain environment works. And once we are comfortable to do that, that's the only time we should be experiencing it.
where can we get this information from? Where do I mean for the common users, where do they get the learning or education from?
So I would say that today education is free for everyone. Everyone has a phone and internet, and they can actually go and Google. But if you would like to study specifically around blockchain, the risk, the responsibilities, how it works, you can easily come on coins.ph. Just go, sign up, and go on the blog and read all the understanding of 101 of cryptocurrencies and how advanced cryptocurrencies work.
Okay, we'll do that. So everyone, let's start to learn more about this. Another question, do you think banks will take virtual assets as collateral like traditional banks use land for? other proper or real properties as collateral?
I think that um, it might be possible. Again, I'm not here to judge how it would happen because it depends on the risk realization of the banks if they are actually comfortable with cryptocurrencies due to volatility. However, it's possible that they might be okay with stable coins. And stable coins are cryptocurrencies that are not volatile. They are backed by actual dollars. So $1 is backed with it. So that is possible that they might be okay with a stable coin. But as far as virtual currencies are concerned, I think it will take a little bit time.
Okay. Now, Numan, you mentioned that the Central Bank of the Philippines is the best in the region. Having said that, are there any improvements in the infrastructure that we can still lobby or can think of to ensure that the growth continues to grow as we would like it to be?
I believe there's already a lot of work being happening around that part. Like quite recently, I was speaking at the Singapore FinTech Festival, and I can see that there's already folks who are working on the blueprint for the next generation for Philippine technology to work on too. Besides that, there's all work happening in the legal and tech world. Also, that they are helping draft new rules and regulation and helping regulators from aspects, not only from central bank aspect, but from other aspects such as National Privacy Commission, SECs, BIR. All of those are being taken together to actually create a more strong um, fintech environment.
Could you share some of those blueprints that you've heard in Singapore?
I'm not in privy to do that, but I'm sure that those who are will be coming out with those as soon as possible.
Okay. Okay. Numan, what are the realistic uses of cryptocurrency or virtual currency as far as business owners or CEOs of different organizations are concerned? I mean, so currently, especially if you're a B2B, I mean, how do we make use of the knowledge of cryptocurrency right now?
I think it's important, Dr. Karen, that we what we are talking about is just the tip of the iceberg. Cryptocurrencies are just the tip of the iceberg. We should think about the actual blockchain technology, which I keep on saying to a lot of people that blockchain is not a company, blockchain is a technology actually. So it is important to understand how is blockchain technology being implemented today. And what blockchain technology does is that, with all the features I've said before, as far as scalability is concerned, as far as security of funds are concerned, security of transactions and records are concerned, and the fact that it is transparent, it cannot, it's very difficult to get hacked actually. Using that understanding, there's already industries around the world who have implemented blockchain technology in industries such as insurance claim providers, as far as healthcare claim providers. They have implemented blockchain technology um, uh, for shipping and transportation. They have implemented blockchain technology in stock exchange. They have
Mm.
implemented blockchain technology as much as possible in a lot of the facets where they find that it's difficult to hack those transactions and how that could be implemented.
That's very interesting because in theory, definitely it is amazing. It's decentralized, it's very safe, it's very fast. I'm coming from Dubai, where whenever we remit money, from here, so you work with three banks, and then the correspondent part, they also work with three banks. It's like that's six in between parties just to get my 10 peso or like 100 peso over to the Philippines. However, having said that, currently we are still using traditional remittance methods. In terms of the blockchain technology and cross-border payments, don't you think it's like, the realities is not catching up with what we're talking in theories?
I do agree with you, Dr. Karen. And again, like, it is important to know that imagine the time when the gold coins got replaced by the actual physical currency. They had the same problem. The
Mm.
acceptability, the fact that it was available to all, everyone starts using it, it took some time. And what actually happened is that the trust of the people started moving out of gold and they started trusting the physical currency being issued by their central banks. And the central bank would actually back that currency with actual assets or gold or whatever that is. Blockchain is very new, and it's only been there for maybe 2 decades. And it's only recently that we all are hearing about it. Did you remember the time when you started using email and internet?
Mhm.
And at that time, for the first time, you heard about something called Skype. And you were surprised that I can actually make an audio and video call to the other part of the world. Is that safe? Is that not happening? Now tell me, today during pandemic, can we actually live without having features such as Skype, Zoom, and Google Meet? It's not possible because we start trusting those technologies. The trust of technologies will come through. Don't worry about that. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Skype, like in a matter of like 2 months after the pandemic, Zoom became like, the ultimate Skype. Um, the accessibility is a very important point. You mentioned, from trade, from barter to cards, and now to a new technology. Who are the most accepting generation or demographic profile of this new technology, especially the digital assets?
It is okay. So I would say that anything new is always easy to be recognized and tested by the younger population. That goes without saying. So we all know that if it's a new fashion, the newer population will actually be the first one to adapt, test it, check it. When Uber came, it was a new technology who was testing it. Now, like the ride-hailing technology has also evolved over time, where the technology has gone beyond just transportation. It's on delivery, it's on food services. It's like gone to a different level now. So for a fintech technology, I'm surprised that not only the Filipino millennials and zillennials are using it, but I actually start seeing that there are some there are some folks who, I would say the Generation X actually, who have started experiencing this and they've actually seen the benefit of doing it. So yeah.
Right. Last words, Numan, to our young gen, our new generation CEOs in the panel right now. What are your advice for those who really want, or at least having an idea or wanting to go into the fintech industry? What would be your advice to them?
I would uh, I would advise them that it is free to enter fintech technology. You should do your own study. You should understand that, and there are ways to actually find safer players in the industry to be a part of. And one of the way I mentioned before is to be dealing with regulated um, companies. As central bank issues licenses, you want to make sure that only those companies are the ones that you want to deal with. That allows a lot of comfort that your funds are safe and the fact that the company will constantly evolve on the technology and security.
Well, very, very, and it's very timely, especially with all the hype. We have to be grounded, and that's a very good advice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you so much, Numan. Three things really, really helping out. The fintech is helping the industry, the economy, and the society by giving access to those who are underserved, by being available. It's like, never imagine in your life that everything will be available 24/7, 365, and that there will be a collaboration while also competing. It's like this is a fantastic era where everybody can be competitions and also collaborators at the same time. Thank you very much again, Numan, for those insightful words. And I encourage everybody to stay in tune because we have two more sessions in this track. At the same time, there are also tracks that you can also choose from. Thank you so much again, Numan. And this session is now adjourned.